for 2017 open at 7:08 p.m. I'm honoured to be on the ancestral lands of the Noongar people. I acknowledge the first Australians as the traditional custodians of the continent, whose cultures are among the oldest living cultures in human history. I pay respect to the elders of the community and extend my recognition to their descendants who may be present here tonight. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome you all here this evening on this very special occasion of the Maylands Historical and Peninsula Association's 25th anniversary. I'd particularly like to welcome Dan Bull, Councillor Dan Bull and Sally Palmer, City of Bayswater placemaker Emma Snow, who's not here apparently. Sorry about that, take that out. We've got MHPA royalty here with Terry and Pam Gaunt, who are attending this evening. And we've also got our Southwood candidate, Robin Walsh. So thank you, welcome. Oh, sorry, and Ellie. Sorry, I didn't see you come in. Sorry, Ellie. Ellie Peterson-Pick as well. We would also like to welcome our members. We thank you so much for your support. Without you, we would not be able to perform our important service for the Maylands community. Has everybody, this is calling the attendees, has everyone written their names on the attendee sheet as you came in the door? Yes? Okay. I've got some apologies to read out. So we have an apology for Chris Cornish, Lisa Baker, Stephanie Coates, Alana Clahesi, Tim Hammond, Stephen Smith, Wendy Pedretti. Does anyone else have any apologies? No? Okay, we'll move on. So I'll now read the minutes from 2016 AGM. Minutes of the annual general meeting held 17th of October 2016 at the Old Maylands Police Station. 18 members were present, as per attached sheet. Apologies were received from Vera Tollidge, Anne Christie, Mary-Louise McDermott. Roger Tomlins welcomed all present and declared the meeting open at 7:30 p.m. The minutes of the 2015 annual general meeting were read and accepted by Frank Polar and seconded by Des Ravenscroft. The President's report was read. The Treasurer's report was read, moved by Pam Gaunt and seconded by John McLennan. The President then handed the meeting over to Keith Stone to oversee the election of officers and the committee for the year 2016-17. All positions were declared vacant and nominees from all present were called for. Voting proceeded as follows. President, Deborah Chinnery, moved Catherine Earhart, seconded Roger Tomlins. Vice President, Roger Tomlins, moved Judith Reid-Davey, seconded Jackie Tadaro. Secretary, Roger Tomlins, moved Frank Polar, seconded Keith Stone. Treasurer, Keith Stone, moved Margaret Mathia, seconded Frank Polar. Committee members elected were Frank Polar, moved Roger Tomlins, seconded Keith Stone. John McLennan, moved Margaret Mathia, seconded Angela Lucades. Karen Polar, moved John McLennan, seconded Roger Tomlins. Judith Reid-Davey, moved Roger Tomlins, seconded Keith Stone. Mary-Louise McDermott, moved Roger Tomlins, seconded Keith Stone. And Margaret Mathia, moved Frank Polar and seconded Roger Tomlins. The elections were received with acclamation by all present. General business. It was noted that our bank details needed to be finalised with the new office bearers. Roger then gave a brief resume talk of the recent conference of the WA Historical Societies held in Armidale. The meeting was declared closed at 8:05 p.m. Supper was then served in the kitchen. Does anyone have any corrections to add to those minutes? No? Okay, I have maybe two. Catherine's name is spelt incorrectly, so we need to change that. And also, the recent conference of WA Historical Societies, are you referring to the Royal West Australian Historical Societies, Affiliated Societies Conference? Okay, so we just need to correct the actual title of the conference that you attended. It's the only two that I can see. Okay, so are those minutes accepted? Someone want to approve those minutes? Yep. Roger, seconded by Karen Polar. Thank you. So now I'll just give the President's report. So the MHPA continues to meet every third Monday of the month for our general meeting held at the Old Dining Room, Old Peninsula Hotel, Railway Parade, Maylands at 7:30 p.m. between February and November. The minutes of our committee meetings for each month are read out and a guest presenter discusses an aspect of history which is recorded on DVD. The minutes will soon be available to members via our website. The City of Bayswater generously supports the MHPA by providing the old police station as our headquarters, where we hold open days on Tuesdays from 9:30 to 12 noon and Wednesdays from 9:30am to 3:30pm. Our committee meetings are held on the first Wednesday of each month. The MHPA would like to thank our sponsors, Esteban's on Watley, NTY Property Group and Maylands Compounding Pharmacy, and our advertisers Wingbo Chinese Restaurant and Central Computing Services for their support. The Maylands Historical and Peninsula Association has had a very busy year. We have revised our newsletter format, we've got a new website, we've revised our displays at the old police station, we've doubled our membership, we have a new friendship subcommittee, we've extended our opening hours, we've run an annual Anzac service, had an inaugural quiz night, been involved with LACE and Have a Go Day events, and we've nominated Maylands to host the 2021 Royal West Australian Historical Societies Affiliated Societies Conference. So we've done that too. As well as lots of other things too. So we've been very busy. We've had an engaging and interesting mix of presenters at our general meetings, from a presentation about NASA's moon landings to the Maylands Aerodrome to how to write your life story. Next year looks to be just as interesting, with a local architect already booked and many more presenters to add to our list. It has been pleasing to see how many of our members attend their general meetings even during the colder months. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you to all of our wonderful presenters for your time and educating our community. Thank you also to all of those who volunteered to help at our various functions throughout the year. We appreciate your support. I would like to thank the 2017 committee for their efforts this year and their dedication and enthusiasm for the service they provide the Maylands community. They attend our open day every Wednesday and they are a font of knowledge. We have several ideas in the planning stages for the future and we hope to tell you more about these next year as more details emerge. To Margaret, Judith, Keith, Karen, John, Marie-Louise and Roger, thank you for being so welcoming to me this year and such a great group to work with each week. I have learnt a lot and enjoyed myself immensely with you. I would now like to pass to Keith Stone, our Treasurer, to do the Treasurer's report.
This is the Maylands Historical and Peninsula Association's annual report for the financial report. A statement for year 1st of October 2016 to the 30th of September 2017. Cash at bank on the 30th of September 2016 was 402308. Income, membership 744. Raffles 34530. Donations 425.19. Anzac Day 77.95. Book sales and spoons $100. Sponsorship, the three people on the bottom, $300. Advertisement $95. Easy Rider, we had a ride through Maylands over to the river. That was $200 donation to us. Quiz night was $1,237.75. Department of Local Government was $4,000. Donation from David Frederick Mabry, $250. Ordnance Centre, $3,712.16. Name badges was $40. Bank interest was $25.11, and petty cash was $14. That brings a total of $15,589.54. Expenditure. Insurance, $642.40. Stationery, ink, office and display items, $502.79. Quiz night was $400. Easy Rider, we had to give them a guide to show them where to go. That was $100. Meeting expenses, $18. And Lucky Dip at the Have a Go down at the Rise during the year was $55.97. And the membership for the Royal Historical Society was $75. That gives a total of $1,794.16. So, and that gives us a grand total for this year It's $13,795.38. There's one unpresented cheque, number 148, hasn't been cashed in yet, so that's still there. But that's what it is. So, okay.
Would you like to move the report?
Keith can move it, I'll
Keith has it.
Yep.
Like to move the report?
Yeah, I'll move
Want to
it.
second it? Roger, second.
Right.
Thank you, Keith. I would now like to declare all management positions on the committee vacant and oversee the election of officers and committee members for 2017-18. So, calling for nominations for President.
I would like to nominate Deborah Chiddery for President.
Okay, you'll second that. Thank you. Vice President.
Other nominations for...
Oh, sorry, other nominations for... Is there any other nominations? Sorry, for President. Sorry. Sorry, permanent something on my part. Does anyone else want to nominate for President? No. Okay. Vice President, are there any... so we've got to nominate you and second it. Okay. Vice President, anyone nominating for Vice President?
Oh yeah, I'd like to nominate Marie-Louise McDermott.
Oh, can I second that as well?
Yes? Any other nominations for Vice President? Nope. Okay. Nominations for Roger Tomlins?
For secretary.
For Secretary. You're such a stable Roger. We've got a position named after you. Sorry. Sorry. I'd like to, yes, Secretary. Sorry. So, you'll second it? Yes, Marie-Louise is, yep. Oh dear.
Happy to accept that.
Thanks, Roger. Okay, and Treasurer. Any nominations for Treasurer?
I would like to nominate Susan Cunliffe for treasurer.
Thank you, Marie-Louise. Anyone want to second that nomination?
I'll second it.
You'll second it? Thank you, Robin. Okay, so there's up to 4 committee positions that are available. We do have one person who's nominated already, so would you like to nominate
I would like to nominate John McLennan.
John McLennan? Yes, is nominated by...
I'll second that.
And you'll second it. Thank you. Okay, any other nominations for committee positions? Would anyone else like
I
to be
would
on the
like
committee?
to nominate Pamela Lee.
Okay. You don't have to accept the nomination.
I'm only good at working with my finger.
And that's where the job takes.
No, okay. Okay. So no other nominations for committee members? Okay. Yes, so
Des
Roger?
Ravenscroft. I would like to nominate Des.
Des, would anyone like to... Do you accept the nomination? Des? Yeah. Would anyone else like to? You'll second it? Lovely.
And I would like to nominate Karen Sawyer.
Okay. We also, in our constitution, we also have to have an auditor.
No, Karen can't do it because of others.
We also have to have an auditor. We haven't been able to find one, unless anyone here knows an accountant that would like to audit our... No one? Okay, so what I'd like to do then is...
Tentatively Sheila Knight. We could try.
Yeah, but if she's not here, I can't really...
Not right here.
No. So what I'd like to do is then is...
Auditors have never been auditors.
Okay. Well, I'd like to move a motion then to say that we keep looking into finding an auditor, and once we find one, we then let everybody, all our members know in writing who's actually been placed in a position. Is everyone agreeing to that? Yes? Okay. Okay, so would the newly elected 2018 MHPA committee please stand up? And please give a warm welcome to your new committee. Okay, so I now have the sad duty to acknowledge the members of the 2017 committee who have not renominated tonight. When I call out your name, if you could come out the front, please. Don't cringe. Judith Rue Davey, Keith Stone, Karen Polar, Frank Polar, and Margaret Mathia.
I've got to be your great account.
These committee members have given many years of dedicated service to the MHPA and the Maylands community. They also volunteer for other community groups. On behalf of the 2018 committee and our members, I would like to thank them sincerely for their efforts and wish them well in their next adventures. And we hope that you'll remain involved with the Maylands Historical Peninsula Association. So thank you very much. Okay. So thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much. I'd like to take seats. Thank you. Okay. I'd now like to hand over to Roger Tomlins, who is an inaugural member of this association, to perform a very special part of tonight's proceedings.
Thanks, Deborah. It is my honour, actually, to acknowledge a couple who are here tonight that have served this society since just after its inception in many ways. I want to actually say that at our last meetings we've decided that we'd like Pam Gaunt to be nominated as a life member, and we've unanimously agreed that that should be the case because of the work that she'd done. Inaugural member, can I remember when Pam was, as far as my memory is concerned, Pam's always been there, has been the treasurer right from the early days when we used to have our meetings in the front parlour here, and she just kept going and doing that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you were also treasurer and also involved with the Peninsula Association as well before that. So that was an accumulation of those two organisations, which is what we are now, which we weren't at the beginning. So tremendous amount of work over those years. How many years? At least 20, could be more. Exactly. And also ably assisted by and supported by Terry, who of late was also our president of this organisation. When he was not on the council anymore, he quickly moved into the position here as our president, and a couple of main things that stuck from him actually being involved in that was the fact that one, we got the police station to be our home, and the other one was that the Dome actually became the home for Dome Coffees. Sorry, this whole building, the Peninsula Hotel, became the home and head office, and those two jobs to get that done was huge. It took a long time and a lot of patience to actually achieve that. Absolutely major things in this for Maylands, that those two things should happen. And again, looking at those two things, it's the Maylands Historical and Peninsula Association. Our connection with this building is all part of that. So thank you very, very much. And Pam, I'd like to present to you
I'd just like to say a few words about the
First of all, thank you very much for the great honour. I was delighted and dumbfounded, maybe more the word. But I was privileged to work with the two other life members, which was Betty Ratcliffe, who, as Roger has talked about in relation to the Peninsula Association. She and I worked together, she as the secretary and me as the treasurer. And Betty did a lot of work running hiring out the rooms and the groups, and it became quite a burden for everybody at that stage. So we were instrumental in persuading the council to take over the ownership of this beautiful building, and they agreed. So we had that. So the Historic Society was running in conjunction. Probably this was, I don't know, about 15 years earlier for the Peninsula, but we existed side by side, and Roger too, we were each members of both organisations, and we decided that it would be very beneficial to both organisations if we combined the two. And so we worked on that, and we also, for our mutual benefit, we shared the Peninsula Association occupied the parlour, which was the office, and we got that in the deed of gift. That was one of our conditions. The council agreed to our conditions, and which was part of keeping that office, which we then shared with the Historic Society. And in fact, a lot of the members, not just Roger, Frank, Betty and myself, all of our members, a lot of them were members of both. So that came about, and we worked very successfully together for many years, and unfortunately they're no longer with us, but it's continued on in that same vein, and we're pretty proud of what's happened. And certainly seeing people here tonight, it's just going from strength to strength, and it's just very great for the future. So thank you very much for the honour, because I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
So congratulations, Pam. Now, Roger will now present a reflection of the first year of the MHPA.
Thanks again, Deborah. Good. What can I remember about the establishment of the Maylands the Maylands Historical Society? What can I remember about that? Well, it was happening in the background. I'd only just moved to Maylands in '88, and '89, the people who lived opposite me were trying to find out where the ratepayers were, and they had a lot of time finding a ratepayer organisation because they had problems with regard to a whole lot of things with the city of Stirling and the Maylands Peninsula. Anyhow, that inspired me to go along, once we found out where the ratepayers were, to go along. Just quickly, my first meeting I went to was at the Autumn Centre, and there was, and I remember now, there was a lady named Elma Venville with her cronies in one corner, and I also met Alan Duffy there, who's I only just saw last week as well, and he's still around. And then I didn't go for quite a while. I went to a meeting at the Elma Venville Centre, and at the Elma Venville Centre there was a man named Frank Greenslade, who was new to me then, but he had a lot of drive. He was looking at aspects of Maylands that needed to be corrected. And I won't go into all those stories, it'd take too long because it's wonderful stuff anyhow. But certainly at that meeting I noticed that there were regulars there. There was Sonia Ford at the back, she looked after the tea and coffee at the back of the room. There was Frank Greenslade, there was the McVeighs, there was A few other names, just haven't got to my head at the moment, and they'll come to me in a moment when I talk about a little presentation they go on. Anyhow, they were the heart and soul of the ratepayers. They said, you know, we can actually form a historical society because Frank Greenslade had belonged previously to the Swan Guildford Historical Society, so he knew what historical societies were all about. He said, let's do that. So that was happening in the background, and all I was hearing was that. There's a guy called Joe Winchell who lived down in the peninsula, and he bailed me up one day and he said, would you like to sign up to be an inaugural member of the Maylands Historical Society? Okay, I signed up. Didn't think much more of it. I did hear later on that they actually had an inaugural meeting at the Maylands Hall. And that all happened, and then a couple of months after that they had a meeting here. And that was my first introduction to the Maylands Historical Society when they had a meeting here, which I can just vaguely remember. At all those meetings and all those discussions, a lot of it just went over my head. I just really didn't understand what they were talking about. I was absorbing little things that went on there, and sometimes I think I'd nod off with regard to all the things that were talked about. Anyhow, they were inspirational a lot because they had Maylands at heart, and they wanted to continue that on. They formed I've got this first slide up here. I've gone through the minutes of the Maylands ratepayers from 1992, and on the 6th of June 1992, on the stage of the Maylands Library, the Heritage Group subcommittee of the Maylands Ratepayers Association formed. They had a meeting to discuss the formation of a Maylands Historical Society. So there was Frank Greenslade, Duncan Cameron. Can anybody remember Duncan Cameron? Only a few of us. Sonia Ford, Flora Franzanelli, and I hope she would have been here tonight, June Greenslade, Helen Rance and Veronica Cook. Veronica Cook was our Stirling councillor. Anyhow, they were there to start a steering committee, which was a subcommittee of the Maylands ratepayers. They also requested that the ex officio member there be Trish Bennett, who was the president of the Maylands ratepayers. And Frank offered the suggested articles of association, looked at gaining some funds in endeavour to obtain corporate membership and so forth, and all that was actually in the first minutes. So impressed with that. They didn't have computers in those days. It was an old-fashioned typewriter with a ribbon. And Frank would have typed all that up. And when I read through it just a few weeks ago, I thought, wow, fantastic record of that little meeting they had. The right, next one looks similar, but this was the meeting held on the 4th of July, subcommittee at Sonia Ford's house. Anybody remember Sonia Ford's house? Yeah, that sort of pseudo Tudor type of house, and that took up that whole block on the corner. That's Kirkham Hill, isn't it? Anyhow, there's now 5 houses there where her house used to be. Anyhow, that meeting, the same people basically went there for that meeting. Alan Duffy joined them, Delia Ferret and Colin Speed. These are names that I can remember. More names that I can remember rather than people that I actually knew at the time. They suggested there that the inaugural meeting or the foundation meeting be aimed for the 12th of October, the second Monday in the month, to be a regular meeting day. In slide 3, they had their meeting at on the 26th of September, just before the inaugural meeting, and that's where they worked. Actually, the technicalities of getting that inaugural meeting together, the chairs, the cups and saucers, all the things that Deborah's been doing in the last couple of weeks with regard to this, they were doing then. But they'd written it all down, and so we've got a record of actually what they suggested and who would be there and so forth. They put out a formal invitation for people to come along to that inaugural meeting, and that was handed out to people with an RSVP and so forth, and a notice was put around the Maylands community so that people would know that that was happening. And then they had the actual inauguration, and at that, this is the minutes of that launch. Another thing Frank did, he didn't only type the minutes up of that meeting, he actually ran a cassette. And that cassette we actually had transcribed into a Word document. And part of what that looked like at the beginning was in an introduction to the people who were there by Trish Bennett, and she was basically their MC for that. She was welcoming people with regard to the councillor, Jim McNamara, the President of the Royal, the President of the No. 1 Regional Council, other representatives of Swan Guildford Historical Society, representatives of Bassendean Historical Society, Canning Historical Society, and other representatives that just too much to go through right now. Tremendous amount of people of note with regard to, in Western Australia with regard to the History Society. Judy Edwards was invited to attend, and she was actually attending for the Minister for Heritage. I think that was Jim McGinty. And she also, at that meeting, Stephen Smith attended in lieu of Rick Charlesworth, who was our federal member for Perth at that time. So Stephen at that stage was just getting his name known around the place and attending those kind of meetings. Picture of Judy Edwards. The speech that she gave at that meeting is well worth reading out sometime. It goes on for quite some time, but I'd hope that if she was going to be here tonight, I'd get her to reread that out again. It really sets out the aims of the Historical Society. The whole thing was just done so well. We had, just trying to gather the Constitution was accepted at that meeting. This is the last part of the inaugural meeting's minutes, and everybody at the end, I think, talks about breaking up for a tea or coffee and socialising at the end of that. Had letters of congratulations from the Royal Historical Society, which we've still got, also the first regional historical councils, and then a letter from the Peninsula Association with regard to the offer of a room here as a home for the Historical Society, because at that stage they had nowhere to go. They were just meeting in somebody's house and that sort of thing. And they were offered a room of between $39 to $52 per month, depending what room they had. And I can remember in the early days meeting here, and we had various rooms actually, lovely rooms upstairs. One was a suite on the far corner. Maybe that was the $52 room. Anyhow, we didn't have that for so long, but then we moved the room above the parlour. And I can remember one time there was a galah inside the room. It fell down the chimney. And that was quite an adventure to get that out of the building. But I can also remember, just harking back to those days, what a lovely feeling it was to be in this lovely building, actually having the suite up the top as our meeting room, and watching the Hotham Valley steam train come from Perth going past here. And I can remember to myself thinking, oh, I wish I could capture this moment, because I'm sure that would have been an ordinary moment years before. So that was, so we did in fact move into here, upstairs in one of those rooms, and we moved around over those years. Incorporation, this is Maylands Historical Society, which has been changed now recently because we... And our founder, can't speak enough with regard to Frank Greenslade. He's become my mentor. I can remember watching him stand up and talk at length about all the things that we can do in Maylands, and I thought if I could be 1/4 of the man that he is, I'd be really worth something. And that's even reinforced today when Alan Duffy brought up the book that he wrote about the Mitchell family. An extensive tomb, and I've looked through that. I'd heard about that book, but I'd actually never seen a copy, and that's going to be well worth a read. Here's a picture of Frank, I think in those earlier days. And Colin Speed. Colin Speed was one of the foundation committee members there. Colin Speed was a left-wing greenie. We had a lot of problems with regard to what was going to happen to the peninsula, and I can remember on the left we had Colin Speed. He wanted no development down there at all. We wanted Frank Greenslade, who wanted half development. He said we can actually make money for the city of Stirling by having more salubrious but less buildings and lakes as well, rather than Elmer Venville. What she wanted to do was fill it all in and have low-cost housing for the multitudes. So that's where we were, and Frank always said, if you win an argument and somebody else loses it, you both lose. He said, I'll always go to get everybody be a winner, and that way we all win. And certainly over the years that's what happened, and that's another long story. So we met halfway with what happened in the end. Veronica Cook, I can remember her, those early ratepayers meetings, standing there and talking about all the things that's happening with regard to the city of Stirling and so forth, and she was always there. I think she was more regular than anybody else. She was just a wonderful representative. Flora Franzanelli, I can remember seeing Flora and her little daughter come along to some of our walks that we had around the peninsula, and she was one of our foundation members, and she's always had a great interest in what we've been doing here, and here she is. Actually, that's taken from a newspaper article, and she's actually standing beside Veronica Cook at the back of this building. But I thought I'd blow her up a bit. Sonia Ford, I think she's still alive. Her son hasn't told me she's died yet. What a stalwart, what a person just supportive of the ratepayers and also the Historical Society. A wonderful lady, and she actually gave us a talk about her history one night as well. Stephen Smith, a picture what he looked like before he went all grey, and in those days. Our first news, just a quick one to go through, this is our first newsletter that Frank Greenslade put out. That would have been early 1993, and that's what our first newsletter looked like. And then some of our speakers that we had from the early days, Frank Cahoon was very memorable. And all these names I can remember, Adrian Skelsey talking about the station, Albert Moon talking about the blind man, explain what was here in Maylands. Absolutely, all of them wonderful, wonderful speakers. And then our newsletter sort of became a little bit more sophisticated because we got a computer and we could do a few more things with it. And then that Gay Nathan was she was an archaeologist, and she had a lot to do with our organisation too. And then as we moved on, the newsletter changed and went on. And that's when we moved into the police station, and that's roughly what it looks like now, a little bit more colourful. So that's just the initial opening stage, how we got a foothold and how we got started. The story would go on and on. We've got all the records of the Maylands Ratepayers Association up there at the police station. We've got the records of the Historical Society, and it seems after a while they actually create their own history. So just researching the history of the history organisation is a huge task. But as we do that, of course, we're reflecting on our history in Maylands as well, so that the two go hand in hand. If it wasn't for those organisations, where would be anything? In the bin when Mum and Dad dies, and it's just not there anymore. We've managed to capture a hell of a lot of that. Last picture, Betty Ratcliffe. Betty Ratcliffe, I found this picture. She saved this building in many respects. This particular issue, and I won't go, it's another story, I'd love to get the full story of it. There was a group that wanted to take this building over for their own use, and she fought like a wild dog to make sure that that didn't happen. The strength of that woman and her determination for that not to happen, and I hate to think what would have happened if that group had actually been able to take the building over, turn it into a Queen's or something like that, which could have well happened if she hadn't stood her ground. And I think that was the most apt picture. There she is, telling those people to clear off. So thank you all very much. I'll get Deborah to come back here because we've got other festivities and things to do. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you very much, Roger. Okay, I just want to know if anyone has any questions or anything they'd like to say before we close the meeting. Anything they'd like to raise? Any issues? Questions? No? Everybody's hungry? Okay.
I'm waiting for the cake.
What was that?
I'm waiting for the cake.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, yes?
I'd just like to say thank you to the Historical Society because they've let us use the room down in the police station.
Oh, yes.
Police station. We go on a Tuesday. They saved us from closing down our friendly room. And I really want to thank the Historical Society for allowing that to happen. And if anybody wants to come on a Tuesday, we start about 9:30. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so if nobody else has got anything else they'd like to say, then I'll close the AGM at 7:50. Okay, yeah, done.
Pretty hard to catch.
I think it is too. It's too high. Oh, God, it could have hit the ceiling, couldn't it? Pamela, I caught you, you'll get fat. You'll get fat. You'll get fat.
Good evening, Frank.
Good evening. Careful, no secrets, Terry, because you're on camera.
Oh, yeah. How are you?
Hello, dudes, how you going?
What are you doing, bro? Ex-committee member.
Yes.
Good evening. How are you, Frank?
How you going, Robin?
Very nice.
And your lady friend there?
You like my signature on your program?
On your my what? Sorry,
My signature. You like my signature on your
Oh, okay. No. It's It's not my program. I hope you're not fiddling the books, Keith, because you're on camera now. Okay. See, they'll be able to say you were dancing.
This is Kate's mum. When Kate and Jill came to visit us at the park, did you climb up the tree? No. Oh, hello!
Oh, no, I've already had you on there. No, go away. I like something that's photogenic. It makes me weak at the knees.
How are you?
You're good, mate. Oh, John, I didn't see you. I didn't even say hello. There you go.